Do I need a tax preparer? Yes and no, right? Famous answers. When I first started as a freelancer, as an independent, many moons ago, shortly after grad school, I didn't have a tax preparer. I didn't have a tax preparer for a handful of years until I started making some money. Like, it was a few years there where I would turn in my taxes and the government would just be like, yeah, we're even. You made $10,000 this year. Like, what are we going to take? Like, you hold on to your money. Let's just talk to you next year when you make more money, right? I think a lot of us can relate to that situation. That's how it starts. That's why I recommend side hustles as opposed to plunging directly in, which I plunged directly in. These gray hairs come from direct things. These aren't random. These aren't just from age. But listen though, I did start to get a tax preparer when I started doing books. This is my particular journey because as an independent journalist, I was making, like I said, not a whole lot of money. But when I started signing book deals, then book deals would be $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, like that kind of range. And suddenly, as they say, you start to go into a different bracket. Then I started working with a tax preparer probably about 5-6 years into my business. It was around the time that the book started moving. And there are two things I would say about tax preparer. Number one, if they can catch certain things that you're not going to catch unless you're a CPA or you're certified with a tax code and right. And the tax codes change every year. So you're going to catch certain things that you absolutely will not catch. And when I say tax preparer, I don't mean H&R Block. No shots at them. But I mean like an individual that says, I'm a tax preparer, blah, blah. There's a couple tax preparers that I worked with that specifically worked with freelancers. So they knew how to, how to make a deduction based on your office space, things of that nature. For instance, with my office space, you're pretty much seeing my whole office. There's not much more here. A couple kids' toys here and there for my boys, but that's pretty much it. But every year when we talk to our tax preparer, who my wife and I have been with for a few years, they already know that there's a house we've lived in. So this 10 by 10 space or whatever it is, 10 by 12, this 10 by 12 space, it's automatically factored in to be deducted from our mortgage, because this portion of the house, aside from me taking an occasional nap over there, other than that, nothing else happens here but me talking with y'all, me doing coaching, and me working. That's it. Nothing else. So if you have a dedicated space, then you can deduct that. I didn't learn that until I started working with a tax preparer. If I did know that, I didn't know how it worked, because I had such a small place, particularly when I lived in San Francisco, that I was basically, if y'all live in San Francisco, you know how small it is. It's like living in New York or Manhattan. And so I would be working halfway into my kitchen. I couldn't deduct that whole space because, right before that, I was making a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Like you can't cross pollinate those things. Tax preparers can get you ready for that. They can also give you insight into the new codes. And if y'all have been following U.S. tax law, with the change of the presidency a couple of years ago and all these other things, all the tax codes are kind of all over the place, way more than they were earlier in my career. So they can help you with that. The second thing is that tax preparers are not necessarily cheap. I think the ones that I used to work with would probably run about $300, which, if you're making $10,000 a year, is like, I don't know, 7%, 5% of what you made that year. It sounds like a lot. I'm sure it's gotten up higher, because we have a tax preparer that specializes in family, so our rate is different, but that's a quick sidebar. The thing is that if they can find ways for you to get money back or lower your tax bill that is more than the $300 or $200 or whatever you're paying them, then you not only did you come off at least even, you're also getting that gain. That's what I'm kind of getting at. So one thing I actually did was I worked with a tax preparer, and then for a couple of years, I actually did things on my own. And now I have a family, I'm married, we got kids, we got a mortgage. Like, it's way too complicated for us to do on our own. There's all these deductions and things that we would absolutely miss. Wife and I are smart, but that's not our specialty. You go to a specialist, you pay them a few $100s, you get it done, right? Just because you work with a tax preparer this time That doesn't mean you need to commit to them the next year. In other words, if you can afford it, if you can swing it right now, I'd recommend checking in with a tax preparer, getting that insight, getting that game. And if you don't want to rock with them that following year, there's usually no commitment. You can just be like, no, I've got other plans, or you can work with a different one. But don't be afraid of that. It's similar to working with an agent when you're trying to get a book deal, right? Or you go into Hollywood, with your headshots versus you talking to someone at CAA or something, which you're not going to come in entry point, but you talk to somebody at CAA at some point, and they're giving you all this insight. Even if you guys don't work together as agents, or in this case, tax preparer, you still get that game. All right. All that said, if things are a little bit tight or a little bit funny, you can actually start to do stuff on your own. I mess with QuickBooks, and I salute to them, because they were the joints that I started with. I remember to this day, me living in New Orleans, suddenly the accent comes back, me living in New Orleans, working on my taxes, and QuickBooks rocking with me. Now, what I didn't put into this link is that this link is for QuickBooks for freelancers. Folks like me, maybe folks like you. If you have a side hustle, guess what? You're a freelancer too. So this is actually redesigned. This software is redesigned to do that. They have a subscription model right now. Back in the day, I'm not going to tell you how many years it is, but if you read my books, you'll know when I was in New Orleans, you just paid for it outright. In this case, it's actually a subscription model, so you can rock with it all year long and just plug your stuff in. The challenge with the old model is that it was only one piece of software. Like most stuff, if you know tech, you understand this. Even if you're into tech at all, there's always updates. Imagine what's happening with the tax code. So I was trying to work with QuickBooks. No shots at QuickBooks. I was trying to work with QuickBooks back in the day. And I was trying to get the updates because the tax codes were changing. And update systems were way harder back then. Again, this is several years ago. This new joint, it's actually cloud-based. And it's subscription-based. So you can go ahead and rock with it. At least here in the States, you got about 5 more days? Whatever Monday is, today's Wednesday. You got 5 more days, 5 full days to go and get your stuff done. If you're procrastinating, I've been there before. Zero judgment. But I've been there before, which is why I'm saying this. If you're procrastinating getting your taxes done, if getting a tax preparer is cost prohibitive and or they're way too freaking busy, right? My partner and I are locked in with our tax preparer. So we've been talking with them for the past year since we did the taxes last year. But if you're not locked in, it might be too late for that. Check out the new QuickBooks. They got one. Again, the link's right here. I am an affiliate with them, and I'm only doing affiliate stuff as far as me supporting them and them supporting me. I'm only doing the affiliate stuff with things that I have used and or things that I trust. There's one of them. I could tell stories about me in QuickBooks back in New Orleans. So I've known them for a freaking while. They updated their program. Stuff looks really slick now. If I was talking to my younger self, I would absolutely rock with it, particularly for the price points that they have at this moment. I don't know if it's going to change, so that's why I'm not saying numbers. The numbers look really good. Be sure and check it out. Another platform that actually might help you is Notion. I'm relatively new to Notion. If you've been using Notion, I know a lot of you are hardcore about it. Raise your hands or throw something in the comments. I know people who are hardcore about Notion. For old head or old school guy, whatever term you want to use, neither one is insulting to me. For old school folks like myself, Notion is kind of like the new Evernote. If y'all rocked with Evernote, which was the logo with the elephant head, 10, 15 years ago, Evernote was the thing. You could save projects on there. You could do multimedia. That was a period of time when Twitter and all those things were just starting to pop off. And you had online only articles, which were a really big deal, but there's no way to organize them. And Google was messing with the RSS feeds. If you weren't there, you won't know what I'm talking about. But it was a period of time where media was kind of chaotic and it was not streamlined. So you needed some way to organize it. Evernote back in the day would allow you to take a picture of a magazine article, back when people read magazines. I have a master's in magazine publishing, so I can talk my talk. Back when people read magazines, You take a picture of a particular article, take a newspaper clipping. Back when you used to clip the newspaper, that's what they called it, clipping. Back when you used to clip the newspaper. And then you could have like a podcast and throw a link to the podcast and put it all on the same thing. From the little bit of time I spent with Notion, because I just got hit to it recently, it feels very similar, but better. I was never hardcore with Evernote, but I knew a lot of people at work. It feels like the same type of movement with Notion. Here's what Notion does. It allows you to organize all this multimedia. And I'm mentioning this because if you're like me, like I did a keynote in Benton Harbor. Shout out to Lake Michigan College. I appreciate y'all. About a year ago, you can actually check out the entire keynote on my YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll find the link here on the channel at youtube.com/BrownDamon. To do that, I rented a car. That's an email receipt. You know, I bought dinner. My mom is in the Midwest, so I think I bought her dinner or something. Receipt. You know what I mean? I got gas, another receipt. All this stuff is all over the place, and all this stuff is tax deductible, at least partially deductible, because that will go into I think they call it meals and travel, or travel and meals. Excuse me, I think they changed the name, but you know what I'm talking about. There's actually an area for that, particularly for freelancers. If you're running a business and you have a business dinner, part of that is deductible, not the whole thing. I know that part. Learned that the hard way, but part of it. So please don't come to Las Vegas and come balling out on the strip and then expect all of it to be a tax write-off. No, that's not. Tax write-off is different than tax deductible. Tax deductible, that means part of it, I believe it's 50% of it is deductible. Anyway, you're organizing all this stuff. That's just from one keynote. I did other travel last year. How do you organize all that? Notion feels like a solution to me. I just started working with it earlier this year. Not in time for this tax year. Again, being transparent with y'all. So I really need it in 2022. This year, I'm trying to get myself together a little bit better. I got a couple piles of receipts. I'm not going to get detailed, but if you're independent, you know how that works. Notion will help you organize all that multimedia. I just got some car work done, some car maintenance, and they emailed the receipt. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so that the car maintenance is related to my business, right? So it's like, so how do I fit that in there? The cool thing about Notion, and I didn't see this as much with Evernote, but again, if you were an Evernote user, is about 5-6 years ago, they made some changes to their plans and everything went downhill from there. Sorry, Evernote. I got to keep it real with y'all. It was, you guys kind of fell off at that period of time. I think Notion kind of started up a couple years ago, and now it's taking that wave. I don't remember with Evernote there being a ton of collaboration tools. There might have been one or two where it's like you start I think they call them boards, similar to Pinterest. You had a little Evernote board, and then you can share it with somebody. Be like, hey, I'm planning this trip. I just want to show you where I was going to go. With Notion, there's a whole different vibe where, number one, it's cloud-based, 100% cloud-based as far as I understand. But then number two, it's actually built for teams. So when I did my startup Cuddler, we did it in 2014. Man, that's crazy. So 9 years ago, you know, me and my two co-founders were just starting Cuddler, actually, as we speak, in April of that year, April, May, something like that. It was right after the TED conference, so it must have been 9 years ago. And we were collaborating, but the tools that we were using to collaborate were very limited. And my co-founders were in Canada and in the UK. So different time zones. Skype was just starting to move. Facebook pretty much was just invented. Not Facebook, FaceTime. I was getting mixed up. FaceTime was just invented. Something like Notion could have saved us a lot of time. And so if you rock with Notion, obviously it says affiliate, so you know where I'm going to go. I am an affiliate with Notion. I like their message. I like their wave. And if I can look at my successful startup 9 years ago and be like, yo, if this tool was around, we could have even did better, then I don't know how much more of a cosign I can give. So if you're doing stuff on your own, or even if you're not, if you have the tax preparer, check out QuickBooks. If you're doing it on your own, you need some type of software. Please don't do it on pen and paper and be looking through their the IRS, at least here in the States, the IRS is Internal Revenue Services pamphlets and try to figure it out. I'm a reader, I'm a writer, and no, get help. If you can't afford or rock with a tax preparer, do that. And then, like I said, if you're trying to organize your stuff, if it's not too late, get it done this year. But if it's too late to organize it in this way this year, go ahead and rock with it this upcoming year using Notion. They also have a new tool, which I didn't get a chance to mess around with, called Notion AI, which is supposed to help with teams collaborating and creating new stuff. The link is there. Check it out. I'm gonna go and hopefully do a deep dive on it later in this year if it makes sense. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video about it. I am curious about it. Again, it's the Bring Your Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. If you're listening, just click the link below. You can subscribe to the channel and you'll get shorts, which I'm doing about a short a day now. It's like the 60-second clips with highlights from the show and from other shows. And then the show, again, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. The Wednesday shows, whenever possible, are live. If they're not live, then either I won't have a show that day or I'll do an encore episode. I'll be at TED next week, so you can look out for some type of encore that's happening.